I come from a Muslim family, and I'm from Turkmenistan, Central Asia. And I grew up in a large Muslim family, a family of 11. And in my family, I had a very close relationship with my mother. And I was a seeker from a very young age. And I was close to my mom because my mom was a religious person. So one day, I remember coming home from school. I was 4th grade. And I always wanted to understand God, and all the things that God created. Sometimes it didn't make sense. So I came home and I asked her, I said, is there really God? Does God exist? And her response to me was, yes, there is God. And she was a very a devout, religious Muslim. Her heart was always helping out our neighbors, helping people in the neighborhood. I watched that in her, and that's why I was just drawn to what she does. I trusted her, my mother, so I would do whatever she would do. So this actually continued until I went to college. In college, I lived with these 2 German girls. They approached and asked me if I would move in with them, so I did. And I found out, after I moved in, I found out they were Christian girls, so I helped them with the language. And from time to time, they used to give me a little booklet, Christian little booklet, to translate. So I translated the Christian booklets, Christian literature for them, and as I did that, I learned more about Christianity. And I've never heard about Jesus before. So they used to share the gospel with me, saying, salvation is through Jesus Christ, and that's the only way to God, through Jesus Christ. So I was very confused at first, because I thought, I grew up believing a God. Now why are you telling me there is, Jesus is God? So it was very confusing, so I listened to them, but one thing that I noticed in the mornings, I've never ever done this in my life, they would get up early in the morning and have a cup of coffee and sit in the corner. At 6 o'clock in the morning, they get up to have a quiet time. And that was very fascinating to me. They would wake up early in the morning. I would ask them, what are you doing? I want to spend time with God. That was one of my roommates' response to me. This is how I start my day. I have that close relationship with God, and I talk with Him, and then I go to do my things around. So things like that, they were such a great witness of God's love, and they were very forgiving, very gracious, and very loving, and very understanding. So I just noticed that difference in them, and I kept asking myself that question. I can't love myself enough, but these girls are loving me so much. Where do they get that love? So one day I asked them, I said, you are so different. What makes you so different? And their just one short, reply to me was, it's the love of Christ in us that makes us so different. And she said, it's because of His love I can love you. If I had to love you with my love, she said, I couldn't love you. I wouldn't be able to love you. It's through Jesus' love I love you. So that made sense. And they were very forgiving. And I will never forget, one time I was just a little bit, offended by them. And my way of winning the situation was just go about not talking to them. So I didn't talk to them. I didn't want to talk to them. Then one day on my little table on my desk, I found this little card with a box of chocolate saying, will you please forgive me? And forgiveness was something that was very hard in my culture, in a Muslim culture in general. I couldn't forgive. I would go for days without talking to even my own parents because I was offended. But these girls taught me the true meaning of forgiveness, and this was the first time that I've ever seen somebody come to me and ask for forgiveness. I cried and cried and cried, and that was another testimony of God's love. So with this life, I continued, and they would share the gospel, and I was resistant because I really wanted to make sure that what they were sharing was the truth. I didn't want to go with what they said. So I kept searching, and they also called him, Jesus, a friend. And they said they could talk to him anytime they wanted. So These things and their character qualities, they really attracted me. I wanted to have that same love that they had, and the character qualities that they had. I wanted to own them in my own life because I wanted to be able to love these people. I just couldn't do it because it was my own love. So I kept thinking about, okay, I can call him a friend. I can come to him and talk to him anytime. So these things kept my mind busy. So then, this was still during my college. Then I went home for school break. I didn't say anything to my mother because I was afraid. I was afraid of the consequences. In my culture, it's if you are a Turkmen, that's what I am, then your identity is you're a Muslim. That's how everybody sees. So I can't change my identity. If I did, it would bring a big shame to my family. And my mother, I don't know, she might reject me, so I was afraid. I didn't say a word. Then I left for college again. I couldn't sleep one night. I just couldn't. It was like until 4 a.m. in the morning I was up, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. I heard this, it wasn't an audible voice, but just the voice inside me kept asking me all these different questions. So finally I sat up and leaned against the wall, and I kept hearing these questions inside me, why is it taking you so long? And it's been 4.5 years almost that I've been witnessed by my missionary friends. And I knew that God knew my heart was full of fear of the consequences of my decision, because I know I might be rejected. I know I might lose my job. I know I might be kicked out of college once they find out I'm a Christian, because the government, they hate, they don't like Christians. So I was afraid of the consequences of my decision. So those fears. So one of the questions I felt like inside, God was asking me, why do you fear men? Fear